All right, guys, here we go. Our first mailbag of the day. We're talking about, Doc said, hey, do you have any suggestions for infertility and ovulation problems? Right? They've been battling this for a while. It's a young lady. Parents were asking me this question. So, what do you do for this and how can you help this? Is there anything you can do? Yes, there's lots of things you can do for this. It's tricky, right? Because there's so many variables that affect ovulation and affect fertility. But something that I've noticed since I've been in practice, it seems to be more and more common. I've noticed this over the last, 2 decades or so that, gosh, I'm hearing more and more about it all the time. More fertility problems, more infertility issues, more ovulation problems. And I start thinking to myself, gosh, is there something we're doing? And there's a real possibility that our environment is playing a role in this. There's a real possibility that maybe potentially different chemicals, insecticides, pesticides, diet, all these things that we do, a lot of them we've been told are endocrine disruptors. They throw the balance off. They throw off homeostasis and they challenge it. So let's start there. What would I do with someone if they came to me and said, okay, I'm having trouble with fertility issues, there's ovulation problems. First things first, rule out pathology. Let them go through and rule out a blocked duct, something of that nature that you just can't physically get around. Rule that out. Once that's off the table, then all you have to do is balance the body. Restore normal function. Where do you start? I run an IUP, right? That integrated urinalysis panel. It's a body audit. See where you're spending your resources. It takes a lot of resources to have a baby. It takes a lot of resources to get pregnant and carry it through to full term. If you're spending those on 10 other things going on inside the body, other stresses, you just don't have enough. All right, limit some of those other stresses, give the body the resources it needs, and that's what the IUP does for you. The next thing is adjust. You have to adjust. You've got to get the nervous system firing on all cylinders so it can balance body functions and parts. Think about it. The uterus, the ovaries, in a male, the gonads, the reproductive system, all of that system has to get energy and information from that brain and central nervous system. You've got to give it to it. If it's being blocked, obstructed, if the signal's a little funny, and the best analogy that I can give you is why you get adjusted, and it has to be proper, right? It can't just be random moving parts. It doesn't do any good. You got to know what you're doing. But why you do this, you think it's like a radio station, right? We're sitting here and we're 1450. You right downtown, oh, I got this. I get out a little further away, all of a sudden it starts to get a little, I get even further away, it gets even less. It's harder to hear because the signal starts to drop. When we're looking at adjusting, that's exactly what you're doing. Now, people will say, hey, I'm moving bones and this and that and so on. And there's a little bit of truth to that. And that helps with jam fingers and stuff. But the reality of it is you're trying to get at that nervous system and say, look, is the signal at 100%? Or is the thing only pumping out at 30%? Because if you're only getting 30% of the information that's being sent, you're going to have dysfunction on the other end. So you've got to restore that normal function. And I've got a theory now. I'm playing with this. It'll be something that I'll have to really set some time aside for, and I'll probably do a clinical trial on this in the near future. The MMR work that I've done, all this muscle work that we invented, that we've been playing with, the MMR work, guys, is game-changing. All right, I'm getting ready to push it out to the doctors to do nationwide. But there's a couple little fun things along with it. When you look at muscles, they have to plug in to that brain somehow, right? They do it by way of a nerve. They got to get a signal up there. Well, guess what? There's only so many plugs. Think like a big long power strip. If you have 30 points to plug into and you got 600 muscles, there's a lot of overlap. A lot of overlap. Well, guess what? Your organs and glands have to plug in there too. So now you have 1,000 things sharing just a few plugs. So when a muscle gets in trouble, it can short out an organ. So one day I thought, you know what? I'm just going to sit down and I'm going to go through and see how many muscles are directly tied to the reproductive system. 54. 54. So why not check those 54 muscles and see how many are working and how many are not? If I find 20 of them that aren't and you restore that function, then it's going to affect the organ, which may be the uterus, the ovaries. It's going to affect on the other end. Balance the nutrition. Balance and adjust the body, rebalance those muscles, which affects the organs, and you might end up with a baby out of the deal. So now here's my caveat. Here's my little fun story for you. I'll give you two. I had a young lady come to see me, polycystic ovarian syndrome. Couldn't get pregnant. Been trying for over a year. Couldn't get pregnant. Nothing's working. The mother sent her to me. They do mission work. They're outside the country right now. I adjusted, I balanced, I ran an IUP, and I said, I need you to do this for me. She called me just a short while ago, pregnant with her first baby. Guys, that's how this works. That's exciting. And I'm going to give you one more. That is my favorite story of all time when it comes to pregnancies. I had a gentleman see me years ago. He had a terminal nasal cancer. And he came to see me for help. And he said, you know what, Doc, I only want to survive long enough to see my daughter's baby. I said, cool. When's she due? You know what I mean? Because I'm like, what do I have to do here to help this body get through? He said, well, she's not pregnant yet. I said, okay, is she married? You know, do we at least have that under control? Yes, she's married, but she and her husband were having some issues. They'd been to fertility. They'd done a bunch of stuff. They'd been checked. There were all kinds of problems going on. I said, okay, let's see what we can do. So I started working with the daughter. I started working with the daughter's husband. Guess what? We got a baby out of the deal. How exciting is that? Dad got to see the baby, which was really exciting. And that was a momentous thing for me in my career, but it gets better. This young lady recently came back into my practice again for some help with some other things with her other 3 children. So not only did we get 1, we got 4. Guys, that's game-changing. That's life-changing. That is amazing, and that's what this care is all about. That's why I do what I do. I'm Dr. Shaw. I'll be back in just a moment.